Hello and welcome to our jazz piano lesson. The word jazz has many different meanings and definitions seem to be controversial. First of all, because each musician has a personal conception of it. Then because this kind of spontaneous composition is quite difficult to notate. And finally, because many styles are associated to jazz. Jazz history is much shorter than classical music's. It starts at the beginning of the 20th century around 1920. However, jazz has seen the birth of many great musicians and has created unforgettable tunes, real hits called standards, which traveled through many decades to reach our times. The early jazz saw the birth of the first pianists such as Gerald Moran, James P. Johnson or Earl Hines, who illustrate the Dixieland style in the mid-30s. Progressively, they will be replaced by the golden age of jazz and its stars: Art Tatum, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Errol Garner, up to the late 40s. At the same time, modern jazz was born and divided into two periods. The first one, going from the beginning of the 40s to the late 60s, is widely dominated by bop style. The bebop era included virtuoso pianists such as Bud Powell, Thelonious Monk, Oscar Peterson, or Hank Jones. Then came the West Coast style with impressionist color, which has mainly been illustrated by Dave Brubeck, and lastly the hard bop in the heart of the blues influence of the pianist Horace Silver, Tommy Flanagan, and Red Garland. The following period, going from the early 60s up to now, has been especially rich in changes in the way jazz sound was approached. For example, with the arrival of electronic instruments or rock music influences. For instance, the free jazz in its collective improvisations, which is based on the musician's interaction, very used by pianist Sun Ra or Cecil Taylor. The fusion jazz or jazz rock in the 70s was represented by pianists Herbie Hancock, McCoy Tyner, or Joe Zawinul. And finally, the modal jazz influenced by modern French composers from the 20th century, such as Claude Debussy or Eric Satie, used by famous pianists Bill Evans, Chick Corea, and Keith Jarrett. This jazz lesson DVD means to be clear, simple, and practical. It concerns musicians of any level, begins with theory basics, and progressively brings you towards more advanced concepts, including lessons immediately illustrated by practical exercises. This program is divided into 3 chapters. The first chapter allows to master the jazz basics such as intervals, chords, scales, and rhythm. The second chapter is dedicated to the accompaniment techniques on the harmonic and rhythmic points of view. Lastly, the third chapter studies the improvisation techniques. In other words, the heart of jazz language. We will insist on the fact that mastering jazz piano and improvisation demands years, a daily practice, and an analytic listening to the main jazz pianists are strongly recommended. For this reason, a discography is proposed in the menu. Are you ready? So let's go!